Have you ever found yourself falling for somebody before actually getting to know them? When you close your eyes, you find yourself daydreaming about them, almost fantasizing, spending your life with them, going on dates with them, falling in love, maybe even having relations. But how could you be so obsessed with somebody you don't even really know? Why are you feeling this way? Is it possible that you love this person? Probably not. It's way more likely that you have fallen in lust with this person. Which, believe it or not, when you're just starting to get to know somebody or you don't even know them at all, it's very common. The early stages of an intimate relationship. Shit, a lot of times lust is what fuels a lot of early relationships. When you're just starting to get to know somebody and you're kind of in that honeymoon phase, more than likely, you guys are in lust with each other, much more likely than you are in love. Because the truth about love is it takes a lot of time to build that. Love requires trust and loyalty, which tends to take a lot of time to build. And if you're moving too fast, lust can actually lead you into doing things with somebody you think you're in love with. But more times than not, it's the lustful fantasy that is starting to take over your reality. But the big question is there a reality where lust can turn into love? Today we're gonna go over a couple different situations and I'm gonna give you guys my honest answer. Can lust turn into love?
It's easy to mistake lust for something deeper. But can lust actually transform into love? Over the years, plenty of scientists have studied how relationships evolve and found some interesting things. For example, lust triggers an intense but short-lived flood of sex hormones, testosterone and estrogen, while love triggers the bonding hormones, oxytocin and vasopressin, which makes you feel close and connected to someone. But despite the fleeting nature of lust, many lasting relationships start with lust. Furthermore, there are also some long-term relationships wherein one or both parties no longer feel any lust towards one another, and it becomes a problem. But despite the fleeting nature of lust, many lasting relationships start with it. More importantly, when the fire of lust dies out in a relationship, the lack of physical attraction creates emotional distance, as physical intimacy often goes hand in hand with emotional intimacy. So to answer our earlier question, yes, lust can turn into love, but it's not guaranteed and it often takes effort.
The reality is, in most relationships, in the beginning, they feel like a fantasy. And within that fantasy, there's a lot of lust. But in relationships that actually last, this fantasy feeling sometimes feels like it could fade away. And if your foundation was built only on lust, you're going to start to see your partner in their most vulnerable form. Take away the sex, take away the makeup, take away that money and status. Have you actually taken the time to get to know this person that you're pursuing? Or have you only fallen in love with the idea of this person? It's a good time, everything feels great, and y'all cracking every hour of the day. But true bonds take time to build. And sometimes you don't really get to know somebody until their back is truly against the wall. I'm not saying that you need trauma to build trust, but do you even know the person you're dealing with past the first layer? How would they react if you guys had a disagreement? Do you know how they cope with their problems? Because I'll tell you one thing, yeah, she might be beautiful on the outside and shit, she might even be amazing in the bedroom, but what happens if you were to dig a little deeper and take that away? What happens when you guys aren't seeing eye to eye? This is why the honest answer is yes, lust can turn into love, but only if you take that time to build a foundation that's built on trust and security within each other.
See, I'm about to be extremely transparent with y'all. Let me tell you about the time that I was lustfully attracted to a woman, but I did not want to date her. I lusted after her, but I didn't want a partnership with this woman, right? And see, this is the mistake that she made. I expressed to her I didn't want a relationship. Once I expressed to her that I didn't want a relationship, she should have never let me lay in the bed and explore her body, but she did. And once she allowed me to explore her body and to find her hot spots and to just, really make her feel good, she was then attached. But then me knowing I didn't want a relationship with her was, it was like, well, she's still letting me sleep with her, knowing I don't want to be with her. It was wrong, but it's like she kept letting me do it. She never was like, nah. Eventually she was like, okay, are we gonna date? And I'm like, well, look, nothing's changed. And she's like, well, I like you. And I'm like, well, I'm still lusting after you. I was in the wrong, but at the same time, she should have left me alone, right? And once I grew attached to her physically in the bedroom, it was hard for me to let go of her because I was soul tied to her because it was great. I was soul tied to her. She was soul tied to me. But she liked me because she saw a future. I liked her because in the bedroom was just great. And this happens to a lot of women. The man will give you plenty of signs he's not trying to be in a partnership with you, but you continue to let this man do whatever he wants with you. You allow him all this access to you, and he's literally telling you and showing you he does not want anything long term with you that has to do with the relationship. Am I proud of my actions? Am I proud of the actions of my past? I'm not. But I'm here to tell you it happened. She let me do it. I took advantage. I took advantage because I told her and she still kept letting me do it. She kept on letting me do it.
So that guy ended up in a one-sided lustful situation. Him and that girl were probably hanging out every day. It's goo goo gaga eyes everywhere. Everything's feeling great. Sometimes you get so deep in that lustful situation, y'all almost start acting like boyfriend and girlfriend even though you're not. If you're not really thinking about it too much, sometimes it can be an amazing feeling. But unfortunately in that situation, it seems as if it became a one-sided thing. One person was in lust and one person was in love. In her situation specifically, it almost looks like she got dickmatized. She fell in love with the way bro was making her feel. Literally knocked the sense out of her. She couldn't think straight. And then on his side of the coin, I ain't gonna lie, he's not taking much accountability because he could have just left her alone, especially after she expressed that she wanted things to escalate more. But he was 100% fueled by lust. It felt good. It was consistent. She probably wasn't giving him much problems. But that's another thing about lust, man. If you're not disciplined and you thinking with the wrong head, you gonna fuck around and find yourself in these types of situations. And if you guys keep giving each other that intimacy without building that strong foundation, I can almost guarantee you it's almost always going to end in disaster. Because while lust can eventually lead to love, if you're not careful, it will lead to the relationship's demise.
Story time about how I caught my ex-boyfriend cheating with a voice recorder that I planted in his car. Me and my ex were dating for about we dated for a total of 3 years at the time. It was a year and 8 months, going on 2 years. He was fighting a case. He ended up going to jail for 6 months. Out of the time we were together for those 3 years, he did 6 months in jail, 6 months out on house arrest. So when I caught him doing what he was doing, he was on house arrest. At the time, he had to be back in the house by 10 o'clock. You know, he had to do what he had to do throughout the day, run his errands, and be home, obviously, at that time. So I would say maybe 2.5 months into him being on house arrest, I felt like he was acting very funny towards me. Mind you, yes, held him down when he was in jail, made sure he was great, didn't cheat, was the best girlfriend, in and in out. I really do feel like that. I'm not perfect, don't get me wrong, but like I was loyal, and that's mainly important, and I was there for his mental. I just had like a strong intuition that he either was cheating or he just, I don't know, maybe was not into the relationship anymore or whatever it is. I knew the problem was not fucking me. And the problem with me was that he was not fucking me. That's red flag number 1. And before I become a crazy bitch, I'm like, are you happy? Let me know now. To fix it, I automatically knew it was him. I knew it wasn't fucking me. Like, I knew it was him. You either moving funny and you feeling guilty about it. I felt like a little disconnect between us. He said, no, I'm tripping. So I ordered this shit. I kid you not, guys. I ordered it. One day was all I needed to really spaz out. But with 108 hours of audio that I sat through and listened to before I created my file and left his ass.
And it gets really crazy because even when you have somebody that you love, lust can actually stray you away from that love. Shorty was holding him down through his darkest times. 3 years in jail? Look, I don't know them personally, and I can't speak for if she was a perfect partner or not, right? But one thing I know for sure is cheating is never justified. if he really wasn't rocking with her and was only with her because of how she looked or something much more shallow than that, the responsible thing for him should have been to leave her. Especially when he getting locked up. Like, shorty's ride or die for you, my nigga. And when you get out, that's how you gonna do her? From the outside looking in, what I think probably happened is there was a time where he loved this girl and understood that this is his person. He probably still to this day thinks that's his person. But another big thing about lust is if you allow it, that shit can cloud your vision. Because the truth about love is that shit's not always pretty. When you piss your parents off, they still love you. When a baby's crying all night and your mama has to stay up all night even though she got work early in the morning, she still loves you. So just like what Shorty did, she held this nigga down while he was in jail for 3 years. But because bro was thinking with the wrong head, he went and hooked up with some side shit and lost the person that was really holding him down. You could just be walking down the street and you see an attractive woman and all of a sudden your mind start drifting off in a place where it shouldn't be. But if I had any advice, especially if you already have somebody in your life that you know loves you and is holding you down, be careful with letting those lustful thoughts come to the forefront and start controlling your actions. Because now instead of lust turning into love, you're losing love because of lust.
Where you at, Berto?